So I was on my way to a basketball game and I ordered a ride share. And this ride share was actually a self-driving car. And I got in the back seat and it felt crazy because it felt like somebody was invisible in the front seat of the car because the steering wheel was moving and we were moving forward, but nobody was there. It was a really cool experience. I was a little anxious, but then also excited at the same time. And then, since I'm a labor economist that looks at how innovation impacts the labor market, I began to think, okay, now we see that because self driving cars are here and they're going to expand, the demand for drivers is going to fall. So a lot of drivers will end up losing their job and it'll be hard for them to find work. But after the basketball game, I went home and I started to do some more research on this. And what I discovered by reading the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report is that actually delivery drivers are going to be the second largest growing job by 2030. Not in the city, not in a particular state, not in a country, but actually in the entire world. The second largest growing job is going to be delivery drivers. And I begin to think, how is this possible when we see the demand for self driving cars increasing? And we saw that taxi drivers were severely hurt by Uber and Lyft. How is this possible? Then this got me thinking about what we call in economics the O ring theory. It sounds crazy, but let me explain. The O ring theory is actually named after a real event that happened in 1986 when the Space Shuttle Challenger was on its way to space, and 73 seconds after takeoff, it did not make it. And the seven astronauts are no longer here with us because of that. And millions of people saw this live and in real time. And once the investigators began to inspect the remains of the spaceship to see what happened, they noticed that it wasn't a large failure. It actually was a very small failure that caused everything to get messed up. It's something called the O ring that seals to a particular part in the spaceship. It actually froze the night before the takeoff and it did not properly seal. So hot gas escaped and that caused the failed mission. Now, apply that idea to a truck delivery. One wrong move could mess up the entire delivery. It can really mess things up. Think about it. The package or the goods don't arrive on time. The customer or the business is extremely angry, frustrated, and then they start wanting their money back. And it can just cause a lot of chaos and commotion. So the truck driver actually becomes the O ring. A self-driving car, it works pretty well throughout the Bay Area. It's smooth, and eventually they're going to go on the highway. So essentially, a self-driving car can become a self-driving delivery truck. But what if something goes wrong? What if something happens that's very unpredictable? That's where the human skills of critical thinking and communication and negotiation, that's when it comes into play. And that's why truck drivers are going to be in high demand. So if you like this video so far, feel free to like so other people who need this information can find it. This is why delivery drivers are going to grow, and they're actually the second largest job by the age of 2030 that's growing, because a self-driving car robot can handle the driving, but the human's going to handle everything else that could potentially go wrong. And we know things go wrong or there's needs to be some movement that happens all the time. So if you work in driving or interested in driving, this is your moment. A CDL license is what's going to get you in the door because that shows that you've passed the test, how to drive specialty vehicles such as trucks or delivery cars or vehicles. However, in the age of AI, as a labor economist who studies the labor market, I would recommend also developing a specialized skill and getting whatever certifications or the hours you need to get that on top of the CDL license. And this goes for every worker. The more specialized your skills are, the more you'll be able to thrive in the age of AI and automation. So if we go to truck drivers specifically, think about it. You have hazmats, which are dealing with very hazardous materials, tankers that deal with liquid chemicals, cold chain driving, dealing with vaccines and other medical equipment that needs to be delivered at a very exact temperature. And you may have a short amount of time to get it delivered before it fails. Oversized loads, moving large things such as a wind turbine or a solar panel. I remember once I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw a truck driver moving a plane. I was just like, whoa, this is kind of cool. Let me give you an example to make this even more real. During 2020, when we had the COVID-19, cold chain drivers were in high demand because of vaccines. They had to be delivered at an exact temperature to hospitals that were extremely overwhelmed. A robot or a self-driving vehicle cannot replace this. A human who knows how to monitor the cargo, who knows how to adjust the temperature if needed, who knows how to communicate with the hospital once they arrive if the loading deck is backed up or you're arriving late or you're arriving a little bit too early and you have to wait and manage. A human, that's irreplaceable because we know life is not perfect and things are very unpredictable and a lot can go wrong. And that's where you, a human, is extremely valuable. So the more specialized you are, the better it is. And this goes for every worker, whether you want to be a truck driver or not, whether you want to trade or whether you want a more type of white collar skill. The more specialized the skill is, the better. And typically the specialized skills deal with something along the lines of communication, negotiation, judgment, decision making, being able to influence people, leadership. I know this may sound cheesy, but honestly, this is how the future of work is headed. The more specialized you are in those type of skills, the better that you are. Because think about it, even in something that's very physical labor, something like a truck driver, it requires judgment and decision making when you are delivering very sensitive material. It's not just the technical aspect, it's also the critical thinking aspects as well. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, where you can think about the O-ring theory, where if something goes wrong, everything else falls apart. And that is where the human comes in. The human is the O-ring in a lot of situations, and especially when it comes to delivering materials and delivering a lot of goods. You need a human there to use those critical thinking and also those human negotiation skills. So I encourage everyone, whether you are in a white collar job or a blue collar job, think about what's very routine and repetitive in your job. More than likely, a machine or a robot is eventually going to replace that. But think about the skills that are irreplaceable or require some type of human judgment or critical thinking. Those are the skills that you want to develop or continue to develop if you already have them. That is the O-ring. The human is the O-ring, and that deals with something being very specialized, even if it appears to be extremely small. What's something in your job or in your career trajectory, if this fails, everything goes wrong? Those are the type of skills that you want to start to develop, because more than likely a machine and a robot would not be able to replace that, because humans are unpredictable, life is unpredictable, and even the environment is unpredictable. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you guys next time.